Wise Child by Monica Furlong. Chapter 20, The Trial. The first time they questioned me was in Philon's house. I was questioned by both Philon and the Inquisitor from the mainland, an English monk who was called Radman. He was tall, with piercing eyes, and when we stood together he towered over me. To begin with, he was friendly. "So this is the little girl," he said. I curtsied, as I had always been taught to do. He sat me directly in front of him on a stool. There were only a couple of feet between us, a distance I found uncomfortable, and I moved the stool back a little until my back was against the wall. This achieved nothing, since he instantly moved farther forward. Philon sat to one side, where I had to turn my head to see him. "You have lived with Ninok, commonly known as Juniper," he began. "For how long?" "For over a year, sir." "She clothed and fed you?" "Yes, sir." "Was she kind to you?" "Very kind, sir." "I take it that she expected you to work during that time." "She did, sir." "So what work did you do?" "I cleaned the house. I made cheese and butter. I ground the meal for our bread. I collected eggs. I milked Daisy. I did a bit of spinning and weaving, not much because I wasn't very good at it. Weaving? What did you weave?" "Cloth, sir." I sounded as innocent as I knew how. "Cloth for our winter clothes." "What else did you do?" "I weeded the garden. I helped dry the herbs. I chopped them up or grated the roots. I helped make ointments and extracts and tinctures, sir." "And these potions, what were they for?" "To make people well, sir. To make them better from skin diseases and dropsy and milk infection and rheumatism and earache and the baby fever and winter sickness and measles." "Very laudable, I am sure. What about the other uses of these herbs?" "What other uses, sir?" "Uses for spells, to make people fall ill instead of better, to give them smallpox, say, or to make their cattle sick or their crops mildew, or maybe to make people fall in love." "Juniper didn't do things like that, sir. She wanted to help people. She was kind." There was a long silence between us, and the Inquisitor started on another tack. "You think of yourself as a Christian, child?" "Of course." "You go to Mass?" "I did until lately." "And what prevented you then?" Philon Priest was saying things about Juniper." "So Juniper would not let you go?" "I did not want to hear him say things like that." "You know that you were very wrong to cut yourself off from the source of grace." I did not answer, and he said at length, "Well, if you say so, sir." "But you don't agree with me?" "I am glad of the grace, sir, but I do not like to hear Juniper criticized." "Very well, but you would agree that Juniper is not a Christian." "I do not know, sir." "But she did not go to Mass, did she?" "No, sir, but she spoke well of the Lord and told me to emulate him." The Inquisitor's eyelids flickered, I thought, with annoyance. "Did she ever speak of another Lord?" "What other Lord, sir?" Of another Lord whom she worshipped?" "No, sir." "Philon tells me that she gave you lessons. In what subjects?" "Latin, English, the language they speak in Cornwall and in Brittany, poetry, philosophy, astronomy, mathematics, especially geometry, herbal lore." "Spells?" No spells, sir. I once taught her a spell, a charm really, that a boy in the village had taught me, for a toothache, and she thought it very funny." The Inquisitor moved a little restlessly on his chair, and I guessed that whereas he had begun by thinking a little girl would be very easy to question, he had started to think it might be more difficult. I felt a tiny bit triumphant, though I knew I must be on my guard. "That will do for now," he said to Philin. "Keep her locked up, and I will question her again tomorrow." As I rose thankfully to my feet and began to cross the room to the door, he threw a sudden question at me. "Did you ever see Juniper fly?" "Never, sir," I said truthfully. I spent that night locked in a room in Philin's house. If I craned my neck out of the windows, I could see the lockup where Juniper must be kept. I sent a message to her in my mind, and it seemed as if a message of love came back from her. I was tired, and I slept well, as if I was refusing to think about being a prisoner for the time being. When I next saw the Inquisitor, about 9 in the morning, I felt rosy and well. By concentrating on each moment as it happened, something I suddenly realized I had learned from Juniper, I could keep myself from gnawing anxiety. Today the Inquisitor talked to me by himself, and he took a different tack. "You must love Juniper very much." I was so surprised by this that I did not reply immediately. Finally I said, "She has been very good to me, sir." "You were very lucky that she took you in and cared for you when you were homeless." "It was what Finbar wanted," I said primly. "Quite so. But to find yourself in a good home with plenty to eat, that was lucky, was it not?" I did not answer, though I was not sure why. I did not trust him. "She treated you well, did she not? So you must love her very much." My face set into one of its obstinate, sulky looks. He could never know of the life between me and Juniper, of the laughter and the gentleness, of the times I had sat on her lap, the times she had sung to me and told me stories, and taught me things my hungry mind wanted to know. What did all that have to do with this huge monk? I knew only that he wanted to hurt Juniper. The questioning went on for most of the day, with breaks for meals. He asked who Juniper's friends were, where she went on her travels, whether I had ever visited the caves under the White House, whether I had been to ceremonies with her in which we worshipped the devil. I pretended to have forgotten the names of her friends, or not to have known them, and the other questions I could reply truthfully to. "Is it true that she would not let you return to your natural mother?" the Inquisitor asked. Reaching through the strands of our long conversation, I detected, with a stirring of dread, the presence of Maeve. "She may be my mother, but she is not a good person," I said, sounding very proper. "She is not kind nor a Christian, and I prefer to live with Juniper." At last the long day came to a close. I was locked in my bedroom, and I could hear Philin and the Inquisitor talking and laughing down below as they ate their dinner. I was tired, but now it was hard to sleep. I kept going over and over the conversation to make sure that I had said nothing that could harm Juniper. I got out of bed more than once to look at the little jail and try to commune with Juniper. I took the talisman and held it in my hand as I tried to go to sleep. When at last I did sleep, I had bad dreams, and I was brusquely awakened by Philin shaking me. "The Inquisitor wants to talk to you." I threw a blanket around my shift and descended barefoot to the living room. The fire had died down, and I felt very cold. With a painful shock, I realized that I had left the talisman behind in the bedroom. "Juniper's friends," the Inquisitor began. "What are their names?" "I never knew their proper names." "They were known by titles? What sort of titles? Tell us one or two of them." "They were known by nicknames, as I am and as Juniper is." What nicknames? I rapidly invented 1 or 2 names. This child has not taken an oath, Philin interrupted at